Cincinnati's back in the orange and black. Cincinnati on the map, baby, tell me where you at. In the jungle, who they bringing it back to the jungle. And the game day, yeah, the jungle's back. Got the natty pack in the orange and black.
Welcome, everybody, to the Cincinnati Bengals Weekly Show on the Grueling Truth Sports Network. I am your host, Mike Goodpaster. Right now, I'd like to welcome in my co-host, number 58, Joe Kelly. How you doing, Joe?
Mike, it's been better days in Bengal land, and been reading a lot of articles, man, of former players. One in particular, Carson Palmer, and he really epitomized, I think, how a lot of former players feel, me included, in really what the Browns, the family, how they view the team, how they view players, and really how they treat their players. And although I want to say that, you know, it's about winning, right? You would think that this thing, it's about winning. Every year you go in and it's about winning. But when you see the same things happening over and over again, and decisions that they make, they're not in the best interest of your team. Because when you go into training camp shows you, Mike, what you have. It gives you you know, you're looking at getting a pulse of if you have a tough team. Maybe you need a tough guy. Your offensive line, your defensive line, your special teams. You're looking at that, and that's why you make cuts. That's why you add players and you know, get rid of players, and you do that throughout the season. And I'm even though I know it that the Browns are not really fully committed to winning. It's unfortunate that these last this past year and the lack of moves and how they treated Andy Dalton, in my opinion, epitomizes Carson Palmer's story. I don't know if you read it, but he really bashed them on the things that they could have done in order to make the team better and things they didn't do. So, you know, it's a pretty poignant article, and you know, I would hope that a lot of Bengal fans would read it in order just to see, you know, his point of view.
Yeah, and the fact is, there's still a lot of Bengal fans that consider Carson Palmer a quitter, and I think that actually what Carson Palmer did led to the Bengals making the playoffs 5 straight years, because I think some things did change a little bit at least. And, you know, I think Bengal fans are nuts because Carson Palmer was treated poorly also by this organization, and it fits in with the way most Bengals players have been treated over the years.
Yeah, you look at it. I'm reading the article, and you know, you know, you don't want to make things personal, and you know, I can just say, okay, here's my personal experience. Coming into my second contract and negotiating with Mike Brown, and knowing at that time in 1990, I would say this in front of my, you know, other teammates. You know, I was the best linebacker on that team. You know, you have to play within the scope of what you're doing. But when you talk about speed, when you're talking about physical aggression, when you talk about knowledge of the defense, and what I was capable of doing, I was better than any linebacker on that 1990 team. And you trade me away when you asked me to stay here. You didn't go get another linebacker. You know, we had some backup, like, you know, Kevin Walker. I thought that year, you know, it really should have been myself and Kevin Walker, the starting inside linebackers. So in my opinion, that was the first move that wasn't for the better of the team. You know, that didn't go in. You didn't go and say, okay, we made this move to make our team better. You didn't do that. When Carson, and it's unfortunate because Carson was a really good quarterback. And he showed that by when he went to the Raiders, what he did, and then how he ended his career with Arizona. You know, this guy, seeing he personally witnessed and discussed things with Mike Brown personally. And as far as talking about here, we don't need this guy. This guy is bad for the team. We need this. We need to get better in this area. These are conversations that he had with Mike Brown.
Well, how about this? I've got a few quotes here from Carson Palmer in this article, and he says there's so much pressure on a quarterback as it is. When you have to worry about some idiot making the decision on a roster move or hiring coaches or some of the stuff you have to worry about, when you have that added pressure and stress of not trusting the organization and knowing that they don't know what they're doing, that's just an added amount of stress you don't need, especially as a younger player. He goes on to say, if the most important thing is the financials and the second most important thing is winning, then you don't have a chance. And it's so important that ownership is willing to do what it takes to win. You look at New England, and there's not a lot of luck. A lot of that is built specifically. You look at what Pittsburgh's done the last 20 years. There's not a lot of luck involved in that. You look at what Seattle's done. That's not a lot of luck. I mean, when you look at that, and Carson Palmer, no matter how they treated him, it's got to be pretty bad for him to, a decade later, still be bringing this up.
Yeah, I mean, because you're Mike, you live it. You've been a coach. You've been on the sideline. You've been on the field. You know how it is in the trenches. If your team, okay, we're not, our DBs are not as good. Our linebackers are not that good. We don't have a strong defensive line. We don't have that. And when you see that, when you're in a position like he was, you're a starting quarterback. You're one of the top tier quarterbacks in the National Football League, and you do have a more personal relationship with the owner, a lot more than I did. I spoke to Mike, in passing. When I negotiated my contract, that was probably the most personal time I spent with him. And when you talk about money in the NFL, all the revenue is split equally by all teams. So everybody is making the same, and they do that to make sure every team stays financially stable. So the money that they make locally, yes, it's a lot of money to the regular person, but the bulk of their money is already made. It's made by the TV contract. It's made by the national sponsorship. So they have the same capability. You have to spend a certain percentage of the salary cap. You have to spend a certain percentage of
Joe,
what
Joe, don't you think maybe the reason they make you spend at least a minimum is because of guys like Mike Brown?
Oh, absolutely. Because of Mike Brown. You have to, because if it wasn't, there would be, a rummage sale all the time. Because at the end of the day, Mike knows Sunday, we're on air. I'm going to the game on Sunday. I guarantee you it's going to be 40,000+ people. Still. Just
20,000 as a Ravens fan, so Joe.
Right. Oh, yeah. You may have half of them Ravens fans. But when you look at it, you look at the organization, man, and I sit back, as a fan now, more than a player, but it constantly brings me back to being, a former player. And I'm looking at these guys, and I know there's guys out there that are busting their ass. And I know there's guys on that team that know that damn offensive line is pathetic. And they know that there's guys that they can get. They know that, here, you get, you bench Andy. Bench 68. Take a pick. Bench anybody on that offensive line, because they are not doing their job. And it's not Andy's line. They're not doing their job. Everybody can see that. So when you look at those things, it does get a level of frustration as a former player, as a backer of the Bengal organization, as a fan, and you constantly see what they don't do. Now, like I said, when we were talking prior to going on air, we were talking about AJ, whether or not he was going to play, Mike, and all indications were that he was going to play initially, but now it's pointing to the other direction, and it's still as a result of this guy seeing that this team is 0-8. Should I come back and risk getting hurt? The team, I just seen what they did to my buddy. My buddy that we came in together, I seen how they just put the blame, this 0-8, they put the total blame on Andy because Andy is the only person that got benched. So it wasn't any other moves. So you totally put the blame on him. So if I were AJ and I seen this, and now when y'all look at the reality of professional football, I didn't realize the reality of professional football, Mike, until the day I got traded. And then I said, wow, that woke me up. So this is not a dream. This is reality. So I can only imagine that AJ is sitting there contemplating, should I really go out here and bust my ass, risk my ankle? Because I've proven to Mike Brown, we as fans, we know what this guy is capable of doing. We know what he's done. There's nothing else that he has to show them in order to get a long-term commitment. You see what Jerry Jones has done in Dallas. You know, all those guys were Prescott doesn't have his, but he gave the wide receiver a long term. He did, he gave Ezekiel Elliott long term. He gave the linebacker long term. So when you're looking at that and other team members, the offensive line, they all got extensions. They're seeing a commitment from the top, and you don't have that here, Mike.
No, there's no commitment because if you don't want to keep him, I understand that. He's going to be 32. He's been hurt the last few years off and on. That's fine. But trade him. Trade Andy Dalton. And I can tell you this as a Bengal fan, I hope A.J. Green gets traded. And it's not because I don't want him to be a Bengal. It's not because I don't think he's a good player. I just like to see him to go somewhere where he has a chance to win a freaking playoff game before his career's over. Because when you come here, your career gets wasted. I mean, you know the old saying back in the 90s, they'd get a player out of the draft, and he'd be good the first year, and then he'd kind of drop off after that, and they'd say, well, he's been Bengalized. And that's what it is. Man. I mean, and the Bengalized to me is this. If I am the head coach and I don't have the final decision, how is any player ever going to respect me? You know, it's like we heard for years that Marvin Lewis wanted to get rid of certain guys. Wasn't allowed. And when he's not allowed, I don't care what Marvin Lewis says then because I know it's not up to him. I'll just go cut Mike Brown's grass and I'll be fine. And you basically cut the legs out from underneath the coach because if you don't have a commitment from winning, that's one thing. But when you don't have a commitment to your head coach, that's another. And when you won't go out and get something the head coach needs to win, it's really hard to blame the head coach. And I've been in situations, it's not the NFL, but arena football, where, we'll have a quarterback go down, and I need another one. And the owner will be like, well, you're going to have to find somebody locally because I can't afford to pay him as much as we paid the other guy. And then all of a sudden, I'm trying to find a quarterback for $100 or $200 a game instead of $600 or $700 a game. And that doesn't happen. And when you don't have that commitment, you can't blame the head coach. But what I can say is this. The situations I was in was where everything started the way I wanted it, and then it kind of went south in the middle, and the owner decides once the starting quarterback gets hurt, maybe I can save some money by not paying one. The problem here is with Zach Taylor, Marvin Lewis, and every coach that ever came here before them, if you know that you don't have that complete control, why the hell do you come here? And I think that answer to that question is Zach Taylor was young and he was desperate. But also, remember, it took him a good 6 to 8 weeks to find somebody that would accept being the defensive coordinator here. And I would think that was one of the gigantic reasons why.
Absolutely. As an experienced veteran defensive coordinator, do I put myself in a situation? Do I put my family? Because when you're coming, you're making a commitment. So not only am I taking this defensive coordinator position, Mike, I am uprooting my family, wherever we are, and I'm coming to Cincinnati, Ohio. And I'm coming under, and I'll be under the tutelage of a guy who's never been a head coach at any level. So me, if I were a defensive coordinator in that situation, I wouldn't be comfortable either, because to me, who they hired told me that guy is not going to have any type of control over the kind of players that he gets. So if I'm going to come here, am I going to be able to run my own defense? Am I going to be able to choose my own players? So you think about that, and I'm sure you talk just like the players talk. Coaches talk. Coaches have agents, and the agents talk. Do you want to go to Cincinnati? Who's the head coach? Oh, they hired this guy who was the quarterback coach.
Hi, I'm Jay Farner, CEO.
We're back after a little technical issue on the Cincinnati Bengals Weekly Show. And, Joe, we were talking about how coaches don't want to come here and how it took so long to get a defensive coordinator on board.
Yeah, like we were saying, when you think about, first of all, who they hired, so you know that the Bengals, you know their history, you know their background, and you can, as a veteran defensive coordinator guy, an established coach in this league, do you want to go back and be involved in a Dave Shula type situation? The other coaches who were qualified, a lot more qualified than Zach, in order to be head coaches, and you've seen that the guys they passed on, it has to be in the back of your mind that, they hired this guy to be a me guy, a yes guy. So should I go? Should I come there? Should I come and water down my coaching style? Should I come there and not be able to coach the players that I want? So on and so forth. So you think about that because it was kind of unheard of, Mike. Here, we weren't Cleveland. We weren't in a totally rebuilding state. Okay, Marvin overstayed his welcome. Had 15 years. Okay, it's time to move on. You bring in, you got some good players. Yep, you got a couple great players. You know the history of the organization, and you've seen that they didn't go after any established kind of coach, any up and coming coach with experience. So as a defensive coordinator, I don't know if you uproot your family and take a job here, knowing that there's a lot of other things that come with it, and unfortunately, Mike, it's shown we're through training camp. We're through 4 preseason games. Now we're through 8 games. So that's 12 games and OTAs and a preseason. And in my opinion, they're worse off now than they were at the end of last year. And we were on a decline last year. They're worse. So it's really demoralizing, man, when you kind of look at it and if you were an AJ, would you come back? Should you come back? The fact that you haven't committed to him as soon as, if I'm going to bench Andy, and I'm asking, and I'm talking about, we're winning. We're gonna put this thing, get this thing together. And my number one guy, my number one priority on this team, in my opinion, will be AJ Green. And there's no commitment to him, so I don't know if we're going to see him on Sunday, Mike.
Well, how about this? I don't think we will, because I think he wants a long-term contract. They're nowhere near getting that done, and I don't think he's going to play until that's done. But you talked about Dave Shula. This is not just a Dave Shula thing. When you look at the guys who have been the head coach for the Bengals, let's go back in history. Forrest Gregg was real successful his first year, I think 1976 or 77 in Cleveland, where he went 10-4, and I think he was actually the coach of the year. And he ended up, had a couple bad seasons at Cleveland, got fired. He coached, I think, in the CFL. I think it was in Toronto, but I'm not sure on that. And he wanted to get back to the NFL. He took the job with the Bengals, and it was basically after failing in the NFL. Sam Weiss was a guy who had been a former Bengal, but Sam Weiss was not getting a head coaching job offer from anywhere but Cincinnati because he had left the 49ers and he went to Indiana University where he went 3-8 the 1 year he was there. So he was a guy that wasn't getting offers anywhere. You fast forward to when Weiss was let go, you bring Dave Shula in. Dave Shula was a young guy that really didn't have a lot of experience. Not a lot of offers were being thrown at him. And then you got the Bruce Coslett, Dick LeBeau. Bruce Coslett was a guy who failed in New York, who was on staff, easy hire, mid-season. They win a few games at the end of the season, and they gave him a longer-term contract. Dick LeBeau was an older guy that nobody was going to give a shot at a head coach, so he became the coach. Marvin Lewis even was a guy that was basically fresh off of being a coordinator, and a lot of people thought he should have had a job a year before. And I think what you get here is you get a bunch of guys nobody else wants, and that's who the Bengals take because the guys that people want don't want to come here.
Yeah, and you see that, with this, especially with this situation, you can kind of see where the Browns, where their mindset is. We're not going to get. First of all, we doubt in our lifetime, Mike, that we're going to ever get an established coach, a Belichick, a Dan Reeves, a guy like that.
No.
So we're resigning. As long as the Browns are owners, we know that, first of all, they're not going to go pay top dollar for a coach because in their mind, they don't have to. They don't have to have a GM. They don't have to have a scouting department bigger than 4 people. Because you know what? We can still be, if we win 6, 7, 8 games, okay, oh well. We're still going to make the money based on the TV contract. The TV contract is not based on how bad the Bengals are. And they know it. So you got to imagine. I only can imagine what their family meetings are about when there's no Zach Taylor, when it's just Mike, Katie, and little Paul. What they're talking about.
It sounds like the Little Rascals.
Yeah. So when you think about that, is there football talk? Are you? And we can't imagine, Mike, that they're sitting there and they're talking about how stout Atkins is, compared to Dunlap. They're not having those kind of discussions, man.
No.
It's how old is he? Everything is on paper. Everything is Mel Kiper. It's on paper, and it's what the ESPN has said. It's what Mel Kiper and all these other people are saying. So it's none of that. It's not. We're not getting into X's and O's. I don't think any of them understand X's and O's. They hired Zach. Zach is coming from, coaching quarterbacks, Los Angeles Rams. Rams are in the Super Bowl. The Rams have this, high formidable offense. It was absent in the Super Bowl, but this is what they have. So in their mind, we can hire him because he knows how to call plays. He knows he can do some of the things that Sean McVay, hopefully Sean McVay can do. And that's what they're. So we hire this guy hoping that he'll turn into a Sean McVay. Well, are they going to let him stay around long enough to implement something or get the type of players that you need for the type of system that he's trying to run? Even though I don't agree with the type of offense that he and other new wave offensive NFL teams are running. I'm loving the Seattle Seahawks and the San Francisco 49ers and putting that fullback up in there and still be able to throw the ball and their passing yardage and percentage is just as good as us. Here we might we're just old school and we are the stubborn dudes that don't want to change and understand now NFL football is going to be 85 to 82. Those are going to be the scores, and they're going to be throwing 45 passes a half. You know, are we going in that direction? You know, I don't know, but it's unfortunate, man, and I'm trying to look at a positive with the organization, but Mike, help me out, man. I can't find one.
Because there is none. Let me ask you this, Joe. You played for the Bengals when Paul ran everything.
Yeah.
Let me ask you this. You had Sam Weiss as the coach, and if you don't want to answer this, this is fine, because this is not to take a shot at Sam, because I've had Sam on the show a couple times, talked to him off air. He's a great guy, and I think he did a damn good job as a coach coaching the Bengals. Did you feel like he had the final say, or was this something where it was like, Paul's got the final say?
Well, I think at that time, I was a younger player, trying to get a grasp on Dick LeBeau's defense. Sam, to me, in my opinion, my relationship with Sam, I had an awesome relationship with Sam. Sam was always high on Joe Kelly. He was a Joe Kelly fan. I know that through my personal conversations with Sam. It wasn't until I got traded. I'm telling you, honestly, it wasn't until that day I got traded and Mike Brown called him out of the meeting. He then called me out of the meeting, and he handed me the plane ticket. And he sat there and he took that berating. I cussed him out from here to Sunday. And he said nothing. He just looked, he was red as a tomato, and I didn't know at that time that he had something to do with it. But once LeBeau came out and once Dick Shelser came out, and he said he had nothing to do with it. And I'm saying, how the hell can a head coach not know that one of his players is getting traded? But by that time, Paul wasn't there anymore. But while Paul was there, Paul sat in a defensive meeting, and Paul was there and understood that. Mike Brown never, ever, one time was in any meeting. I never seen him look at film. Other than maybe he looked at the game, on Monday, in there. But as far as going into the DB's room, looking at film, the linebackers room, the defensive line room, the offense, Paul Brown was in there. My rookie year, I recall him in those meetings, saying things. Even it wasn't a long time. He wasn't trying to micromanage them, but he would say stuff on the field. You could get in. He wasn't, as involved as he was in the past when he was younger, but, he was there. So, you had a sense of nostalgia. You knew that this guy, he was a pioneer of football. So you respected that. And you don't get that with Mike. Either you have it or you don't. You can't make Mike Paul. So at the end of the day, the Bengals fans got to understand Mike is not Paul. So the Bengals were created and established under Paul and what Paul thought and what Paul's vision was for the organization. And his son has taken over it, and his son has a different vision. His son's vision is business. It's business. It's not about winning the Super Bowl every year. It's not like about putting. I've seen that personally. Never in my 4 years with Cincinnati did I think that we had or kept the best 53 that went to training camp. I've seen that. I've seen guys that I knew was better than this guy, but that guy made more money, so they cut him. And with that, it became that. So I became to be aware of, in this organization, it was not about winning or fielding the best team, every year.
So why do we continue to watch this crap, Joe?
Hey, you know what, Mike? Because we're football guys.
Oh, I know, but that should give us the common sense to not.
It does, but we can just talk about, man, how bad this is. And at the same time, while you and I are sitting here and we're talking, on the grueling truth, Mike, I can tell you, man. I've never been a head coach, and I'm refrain that, but I know football, I know linebacker, I know defense, I know defensive schemes. I can tell you right now what type of scheme. More than likely, I'm a 4-3 guy. There's I'm a all out. I'm not a sit back kind of guy. You've been a head coach. We couldn't do any worse. Right now, today, you and I could not do any worse than what's going on. So when you think about, here, are we gluttons for punishment, man? But you see it as a football. You've been a coach, and you see the lack of time management. The calls, 4th and an inch, and you're in a shotgun, and then your call is to run.
I hate 4th and a yard in a shotgun more than any play in the history of Western civilization.
Oh my God! So you look at that, and I don't know if everybody watches the game how you and I watch the game. I'm sure that there are. I can't just go and I'm just watching and enjoy the game. I'm going to look at the linebackers. I'm going to look at the defensive calls. And then I'm vice versa. When we're on offense, as a defensive player, I'm seeing what our offense is trying to do to the defense.
Yeah, as a fan, if you're watching the game, don't watch the ball.
Yeah.
You miss the whole game when you watch the ball.
Yes. Yeah. So it's tough, man, when we're talking about trying to see how we're going to do the next week. We've had 2 weeks to prepare for Lamar Jackson, and unless you're going to change your scheme, I don't see anything different.
Well, see, I don't think it's a change of scheme. I think the problem is this. I think the problem is lack of discipline in that scheme because nobody contains their gaps. And what's going to happen this week, I can already tell you ahead of time. It's a trap game. They just had a huge win over the Patriots. But the Bengals will let this get away because their defensive ends will fly inside. Lamar Jackson will run outside and either hit him deep or just run for 200 yards.
Yeah. And I, it's those are mental breakdowns. Those are mental errors. They happen every 2-3 times a game. It shouldn't happen 25 snaps. And you have multiple people making mental mistakes. And I can only personally put that in the same space as I was when I got traded to the New York Jets. And we were Pete Carroll was trying to teach Fritz Shermer 4-3 scheme to us, and he's trying
Wait a second. He was trying to teach Fritz Shermer?
Yeah. Fritz Shermer. He was a Minnesota Vikings defensive coordinator for a long time.
I think you're talking Fritz, because Fritz Shermer knows more about defensive line than about anybody ever coached it, so I couldn't imagine Pete Carroll telling Fritz Shermer anything.
No. He was trying to teach that Minnesota the fourth. So they were assistant. Okay. Him and Monty Kiffin were assistant coaches at Minnesota. So when they came to the Jets, now he's trying to teach that scheme that they were running in Minnesota to us. But in the same time, he's trying to teach it to Fazio, who was a college quarterback coach. Monty Kiffin, who was down. He was coaching the inside linebackers. You had Coach Robinson, Greg Robinson from UCLA. So not only are they trying to learn the defense, they're trying to teach us the defense. And at the same time, they're trying to create this game plan against all these teams. And it wasn't working. We were, for that entire first year, I can see so many similarities between that Jet team and this team, but we weren't as bad as these guys are. We were a little better, we're a little more competitive, but they're running around, and I'm telling you, these guys, they're not confident in what they're trying to do defensively, and they're not confident in the game plan. And it's showing. It's showing in 8 games that they're not comfortable with whatever this defensive coordinator is trying to do.
All right. So Kozlov was a head coach in 90, right?
Yes, 90, 91, 92.
Right.
Yep.
You had a running backs coach named Kippy Brown.
Yeah, Kippy Brown.
Who the hell wants to be called Kippy?
Kippy, yeah. Kippy from Tennessee.
Greg Robinson and Monty Kiffin, who would turn out to be pretty good coaches.
Well, all of them. Well, you know what, Mike? This was 1990. It's 2019.
I know.
So,
they learned some stuff.
You got some time. Unlike players, players don't have the time. I seen Pete Carroll, Monty Kiffin. I seen them destroy Eric McMillan was one of the best free safeties, a 2-time Pro Bowl kid, young kid. I see them totally destroy his career, totally destroy Emac's career. To this day, they totally destroyed that kid's career, and he was one of the top safeties in the league. And it was just about egos and them trying to teach a defense that they didn't know, and I can see that, they're the Zach and those guys are, they've come in, and I can see how they're forcing their linebacker from North Carolina State. They're forcing him into packages. You're looking at it, cover 2 against the Rams. You're forcing him, this kid that never played middle linebacker, when you got, Preston Brown as a middle linebacker. He knows cover 2, you're running with 3 at the seam all day. And at least he's going to be there. And it's those kind of things that I see as a former player, that these guys are so out of position. A lot of times just by alignment, by the defense call.
And I think Eric McMillan is a good example of what can happen to a player when he's stuck with bad coaching, because I think that he was like the 1988 NFL Defensive Rookie of the Year, and he was the first New York Jet in team history to play in the Pro Bowl his first 2 seasons, and by 1993 he's on 3 different teams and out of the league.
Oh man, they totally destroyed him. When I say a guy that had range, when I say that guy that, he got a PhD. He was in school while we were playing.
Yeah, he was like 6'3", wasn't he? He was a big safety for back then.
Yeah, he was right at about 6'3", 200, 205, could run, could cover, and was his football IQ was out the roof.
Oh, yeah, his dad was a Pro Bowl tackle for the Cardinals, wasn't he? If I remember.
For the Cardinals.
Yeah.
So so he had football IQ. We talk. He's coaching down in Georgia. So when you talk about coaches, ruining, not only this season, they've come in and ruined this. This season is over. And as a result, I see what they're doing to Preston Brown. Preston Brown, is out. He's not in a lot of schemes. Is Preston Brown a fast linebacker? No, he's a Mike. He's a Mike. I still think we're probably the only team that has 4 linebackers. I'm looking at other rosters. We've got 4 linebackers. Linebackers are the heart of your team.
Are we trying to play a 4-2-5? Because that's what it looks like most of the time.
Yeah, that's what it looks like.
Which is a college defense.
Yeah, and it's the Xbox defense, I guess. There's a lot of things that we could do. If you're running, 4-3. The kid from Oklahoma, Mike, the linebacker, he doesn't play any snaps. It's all special teams. I thought, when you're trying to match up guys, a number 3 running up the seam, he's a guy that, he's a linebacker that can do that. So, I think they have the players to be able to at least compete. But, it's at the end of the day, we can continue and talk about how bad the players were, how bad Andy is, or at the end of the day, you have to look at what the coaches are and how the coaches are preparing them. the game plans. I haven't seen one game plan, one game, Mike, tell me if I'm wrong, that I thought offensively and defensively, other than the Seattle game.
But even that game, Joe, I thought the game plan was good. But when you got to the second half, we only scored 3 points on offense. So we got dominated because they made no adjustments to their original game plan.
Yeah. We got a half. We had a half of something I thought that would work. And then once we seen, there was no changes. And then it just got worse. From San Francisco, it got even worse.
Well, the 49ers exposed them, and everybody's pretty much done what the 49ers did since then. And the sad thing is, we're almost 2 months later, and we still don't know how to do anything to stop it.
Yeah, and Mike, it's unfortunate, man. We can, what you going to do? We can say all this. It's the trading deadline is over, so we can all, as Bengal fans, throw away that damn wish list. We can get this player. We can get, it's that I feel bad for Andy Dalton because, at the end of the day, as a veteran, I know how it is as a veteran to get traded, to be in that situation, rather than sitting down and as far as Mike, so you can understand the Browns' thought process. I'm not going to send you because if I play Ryan Finley and he bombs, I put you back in and you go back in. So how do you think? What kind of mindset is Andy going to have?
Yeah, because you know what happens then. No matter what Andy does, they're probably going to draft a quarterback first, just to shut everybody up, and then Andy's going to leave anyways. And I hope Andy goes to Chicago because I think he could win a lot of games there.
Yeah. You see. Those these kind of situations, and to me, it's not the same as when you look up in New York with Eli Manning, and that situation. I don't see this. Eli was, to put it bluntly, Eli was shitty.
Yeah, but you know what? Eli was shitty because the same front office of drafting bad offensive linemen that tanked for 5 years is what happened to him also. So the quarterback is going to end up being shitty if his internal clock gets ruined because for 5 years he's got somebody in his grill right away. So that Eli Manning's a lot older than Andy Dalton.
Yeah. So, it's I don't know, Mike. It's
and I don't think Andy Dalton is like an elite quarterback, but I think he's in the top half of the league, and over half the teams in the NFL would improve their quarterback situation by having Andy Dalton. And I think people also forget that since 1991, the Bengals have made the playoffs 7 times. Andy Dalton was responsible for 5 of those.
Yeah. So when you is he in the top 10? Probably not. But like you said, he can win. He can win some games. He can put he can string along. He can make those NFL throws. You put him behind an offensive line.
Put him behind the 2015 team, Joe. It was 27 touchdowns, 7 interceptions, and he was a favorite to be the MVP until he got hurt.
Yeah, until he got hurt. So I mean, Mike, we talked about it, and it's unfortunate that and we're spending this entire time just talking about the Browns and how they operate, as opposed to talking about X's and O's.
Yeah, but you know what? The X's and O's don't matter because of the way the Browns operate.
And it's true. So you have a football show and you don't talk about football. You don't.
Well, we haven't seen football to talk about yet this year, Joe.
Right. It sucks. It sucks, Mike. We you go, man, and you always, I really want to give the guy the benefit of the doubt. I do. But at the same time, coaches, Pete Carroll sucked, and he sucked big time, for a long time. Then he hit it big at SC. So coaches, and that's the problem I have with coaches, because coaches can suck, and still retain their job.
Well, he got Russell Wilson, and he had donors at USC that paid a lot of money for guys.
Yeah, and in NFL, the acronym for NFL is not for long. So guys have 3, 4, 5 years. And you're blessed if you play longer than that, or you're able to stay healthy. So you're talking about here, Zach is coming in. Look at what AJ. I mean, primarily looking at Andy. You're coming in, Andy if Andy had an offensive line, and he had AJ and he had Ross. Will we be 0-8? No. I would think we would be, minimum 5-3, maybe 6-2.
Joe, come on. I think they'd be 0-8. I think they're that unprepared. Maybe they win a game or two with AJ and Andy. But
no, I'm saying if we had Jonah Williams and Gordy wasn't pouting, and you mix the interior three, the center and the guard. I think Andy, that would buy Andy some time, and I damn sure think that it would have given Joe Mixon, an inch here, an inch there. Because, with a guy like that, that's all he needs. So if you have Mixon running the ball, man, now, that benefits the passing game. So, I think we would be no worse than, I think we would still be in the running. Even if we were 4-4, I would think we'd be in the running. But it's all that is mute, man. And I don't. It's gonna. I was hoping to see AJ this weekend, but according to some of the reports, I think we're not going to see him. So I think a lot of fans and I'm sure Ryan Finley was hoping that AJ was going to be there.
Yeah.
Because
I saw a lot of fans say that AJ was going to play now since they announced he was going to play. A lot of people thought that he was waiting till Andy was gone, and I think that's absolutely stupid. I think one of the reasons he's having a hard time coming back is because Andy's not there.
Yeah, but there's a bond. There's relationships. This is real life stuff, man, and I'm sure he and Andy got together away from the stadium and, talked about it. And, damn, at the end of the day, hey, we all have a shelf life. But when it happens, did Andy even fathom or think that this was it? No. I know he didn't. There's no way you think at this point in your career where he was, you still think he has, 2, 3, good years starting, quarterback for the Bengals. But boom, it's abrupt. And now I'm sure AJ is now can say, well, you know what? What if I go out here and play and hurt myself? So not only that they're not going to give me a long-term contract, I'm going to mess up possibly being offered a long-term, contract, which, maybe a 4-year. I don't think nobody's going to give him more than a 4-year deal. So, you look at, 4-year deal, which is still going to be a pretty sizable amount of money. Should I jeopardize that in today's generation? You look at the college guys who screw their team in a big bowl game and don't play because they want to get drafted, and you can win a national championship if you play. Now so it's the me generation. So should he get out there? Gordy. Do I think Gordy could have been playing a long time? Yes, he could. But it's all about self. It's self-preservation. It's in my self-interest, and is that wrong, Mike? I don't know. But as a former player, and would I have been pissed if I'm out here busting my ass and you're sitting next to me and I know you can play and you're refusing to play? I would have a problem with that.
Yeah. And so, what do you think? Bengals beat the Ravens?
Absolutely not. Absolutely not. I don't see a way that this defensive scheme and what I've seen in 4 preseason games, what I've seen in 8 regular season games, that whatever he's trying to do, I don't see it being able to slow down Baltimore at all. I can't see it. So I don't see. I see Lamar, and Lamar's getting better. He's getting better. He's getting more confident. This is his first year starting. He's getting full year. So he's
hey, dude, if he's not comfortable Sunday, I don't know what to tell him. He's screwed. He's in for a long career.
Oh yeah, yeah. And offensively, I think like most teams, which we don't do, they're going to see a rookie quarterback, first time. So we're going to go after his ass. I think Baltimore, they're going to peel their hats back, man, and I think they're going to go after Finley, and based on the guys that he has protecting him, I think Finley is going to be running around. I think Finley is going to have 60, 70, 80 yards rushing because he's going to be running for his life.
The question is, can he get 60, 70, or 80 yards passing?
I don't know, because I don't know if he's going to have the time, Mike, to be able to sit and go through his progression and I just don't think it's going to happen. And unfortunately, it doesn't matter how bad Ryan plays. You made the decision. So what do you look like if he goes out and he bombs? You bench him? No, now that's coaching. Now
you kind of got to go with him from here on out.
Yeah, you have to. You walked into a gunfight at the OK Corral, and you don't have any bullets.
Yeah.
So
you're taking a knife to a
choice.
gunfight.
Yeah. So you have to. No matter what happens, you're gonna have to stay behind him, and and I'm sure that now in his press conferences that he's gonna start blaming the offensive line for Ryan Finley's bad play, because he has to, because he's made that decision. So Sunday I'll be there, Bingo Nation, Who They Nation. I'll be there, front and center. I'm gonna take some kids, so we'll be there, man. And
are those kids in trouble for something, Joe?
Yeah. This is punishment. Not great.
All right.
So
hey,
real
quick, I want to mention before we sign off that the Bengals lost a legend this week. As former Bengal linebacker Jim LeClaire passed away. Did you ever get a chance to meet Jim LeClaire?
Absolutely. He was one of the first guys that he had come in, and knowing some of the stories through obviously through Reggie Williams. Reg had played with him. And Crummy talked about him. Lap talked about him. Anthony Munoz. So we sit down and we talk about linebackers. We talk about the old Super Bowl. He was a named linebacker. He was a linebacker. So he was one of the greater linebackers in Bengal history. So one thing I wasn't aware of. I wasn't aware that he was suffering from Alzheimer's. Because I know he went back. He moved back to North Dakota, and he ran an insurance business or something, and I think he was actually mayor of a small town. So I don't know exactly when the dementia and Alzheimer's started to settle in.
Yeah,
but,
he was the mayor of Maryville, North Dakota.
Yeah. So he had to have his wits about himself. But I don't know. Most politicians are crazy anyway.
Yeah.
Okay. So I don't know. It's but it's one. And this is the show is almost ending, but Mike, I had to say this. So when you look at and you see other legends, I'm not just saying a guy that played a couple years or a couple games with the organization. When you see a guy that gave his whole life, his whole career with the Bengal organization, I did not see a huge commemoration or something from the Bengals, from the Browns, saying, hey, we would, want to send out prayers for, Jim McClare and his family, the Bengals, we lost. I didn't see that, it wasn't on the news. Because this was a guy who, you drafted, he's done a lot for, the Bengals, and, he's an all-time great. And, it epitomizes what Carson Palmer was talking about.
Yeah, this is a guy who played from 1972. I think he retired in 83 or 84.
83.
83. So he went out. His last home game would have been in 17-9 win over the Lions, where Kenny Riley. It was his last game. They honored Ken Riley, and number 13 and number 55 should be hanging somewhere in a ring of honor with a 57, a 14, an 85, and that's not for Chad Johnson. It's for Isaac Curtis.
Isaac Curtis.
And the fact that they do not honor these players will tell you what they think of the players. And the fact that they treat their fans the way they do will tell you, it's not good business. And that's why people are not showing up anymore. They treat the fans like crap. They treat the players like crap. And they're just making money. And see, Jim McClare played for 2 seasons in the USFL. Because he didn't retire in 83 from what I remember. The New Jersey Generals signed him, and I think maybe Dave Lapham. Did he go there for a year or so?
Yeah. Lapham too.
And he went to the Generals because the Bengals lowballed him on a contract offer.
Yeah.
But that doesn't sound familiar, does it?
Yeah, wow, yeah.
Well, how about this? Bill Bergey, maybe the first great Bengals linebacker, was traded because the Bengals didn't want to pay him, and they had Jim McClare waiting in the wings, and Jim McClare didn't make as much money.
Yeah, it shows. It shows, and that practice, stands till this day, and I think now it's the spotlight is on them even more because it's so obvious.
But they don't care, Joe. That's the sad thing.
It's some of the things that Carson was saying. Those are things that I heard. So I was just so sure that I was going to go to the San Diego Chargers. But you don't want to go to the Bengals organization because they're going to lowball you. Every first round in history, misses training camp. And I'm saying no. Just like Carson was saying, no, not me. Not me. I'm a good guy, man. I work hard. I want to get out there and get in those 2 days with my teammates. And it happened, saying no training camp my rookie year, And
hey, I'll give you a story. Do you remember Gary Jeter?
Yeah.
Gary Jeter, one of the best men I've ever met. And I remember the first conversation I ever had with him. He was the first guy to ever do our Legends show. And we talked for like 4 hours. And in that 4-hour conversation, he's like, 1979, I was projected to go in the first 3 or 4 picks. And, it was getting time for the Bengals to pick. And he said, me and my agent were just sitting there hoping to God the phone didn't ring. And I guess a couple days before that, Paul Brown had called him about maybe being a Bengal. And him and his agent both said, do not pick me. Because as Jeter said, he said it would have cost me a ton of money because they wouldn't have paid me what the guys up there were getting. They were going to screw me. Luckily for him, the Bengals took Jack Thompson. Not lucky for Jack, but lucky for Gary. And, it was just, that was what he said. He said everybody knew you didn't want to go to the Bengals. Even though Paul Brown was a legend and the team was good when he was there, you knew that when it came contract time, you were going to get screwed.
Yeah. And that sucks. I look at it and had I gone somewhere and I got drafted, by a team that ran a 4-3 like the Raiders and was able to play in that and be able to shine, and lead team in tackles year after year and an organization that took care of their players and, really cared about them, how my life or my career. My life would have been the same pretty much, but just the career, But, at the end of the day, man, I wouldn't trade it because of the people that I've met, man, and the friends that I've met over the years. But and now being a Cincinnatian, so to speak, you're here, man. You're rooted here in Cincinnati, and you want the homes. You want home team to win. You want Who Dey to stand out. And, until that day comes when either Mike relinquishes control, and I would have to bet that Katie will be smart enough to say, I'm not a football person, and let me hire.
I mean, that's what happened in Indianapolis when Irsay's dad, relinquished control to him. Yeah. He's still a drunken idiot, but he hired a GM who could get some stuff done. And since the late 90s, when, the younger Irsay kind of took it over, and he hired, who was it, Ron Wolf or Bill Polian?
Yeah.
It was Bill Polian.
Even Georgia Frontier. Georgia Frontier was smart enough to hire some football people.
Yeah.
I played for her, and she owned the Rams. She was smart enough to hire John Shaw and, some other guys that were football people that knew football, and they had scouts. And, the Rams, their scouts were, it was funny just looking at all the teams I played for, all their scouts. The scouts were former players, and you knew that. And, I somehow, I don't know, my dumb ass just decided to stay in Cincinnati,
that's the difference. A lot of teams take their former players, give them scouting jobs to take care of them afterwards. The Bengals don't care.
Yeah. I mean, you look at every organization, especially I played for 16, and all 5 of those other teams, there's former players that are in that organization, scouting, player personnel, community development, all these kind of jobs, if not coaching. So, it's you see the Roonies and them taking care of, their former players. And it's just, it just kind of sucks now. The more you think about it, it's like, man, shit, I got the raw end of the deal. But being a former Bengal players all get the raw end of the deal when you think about it, compared to, all the other teams, man.
So do Bengal fans, Joe.
Yeah. Sorry for Bengal Nation.
What's left of them? All right. We're going to go ahead and wrap the show up. We want to wish Ty Robbins a happy birthday. His wife made him go out for his birthday tonight, so that's why he went on the show. He'll be back next week.
Oh, tell him I said happy birthday. It was my wife's birthday last night. So.
Oh, there you go. Tell your wife I said happy birthday.
We'll do.
Yeah. All right, guys. We'll be back next Wednesday to bitch and moan about the loss to the Ravens and look forward to the next loss against whoever they play next week. I don't even know anymore. But remember, you can follow us on The Grilling Truth at Grilling Truth. You can find us on any podcasting platform, including Spotify, iHeartRadio, iTunes, TuneIn, Spreaker, Stitcher. We're newly on something called Podcast Addict. I don't know what that is, but you can find us on it. So we will be back next Wednesday. For Joe Kelly, I'm Mike Goodpaster. You've been listening to The Grueling Truth, where the legends speak.
O'Reilly. Prepare your vehicle for the weather ahead during Superstart Battery Month at O'Reilly Auto Parts with great deals on batteries and accessories. Plus, save on your next oil change with 5 quarts of Valvoline Max Life motor oil and a MicroGuard filter, just $28.99. O'Reilly Auto Parts. Better parts, better prices every day. Limits apply. See store for details.
O'Reilly Auto Parts. O'Reilly.
Prepare your vehicle for the weather ahead during Superstart Battery Month at O'Reilly Auto Parts with great deals on batteries and accessories. Plus, save on your next oil change with 5 quarts of Valvoline Max Life motor oil and a MicroGuard filter, just $28.99. O'Reilly Auto Parts. Better prices every day. Limits apply. See store for details.